Okay, let's now test the errors on the client side and configure our Angular application to handle errors as well. The goal remains the same, still want to handle errors as centrally as possible to remove the need to handle errors for every function that we create. So first of all, to test our current error handling system, we're just going to create a component so that we can demonstrate and configure what we currently have for error handling. So let's just clear this window. And I'm going to create a new component. So I'm going to say nggc, and it's going to go inside an errors folder. And I'm just going to call this component test errors. And I'm going to skip -tests. And let's open up this component. So I'll open up the test error component itself first of all. And we'll use this to make HTTP requests to our new buggy controller. Now I'm not going to create a service for this, and I'm just going to use the HTTP client directly inside this. And because this is just a demo test component, I'm just going to use the HTTP client directly inside here. So I'm going to give it a base URL equal to https://localhost:5001/API/. And I'm also going to inject the HTTP client inside here as well. So I'll say private HTTP, and we want to inject the HTTP client inside here. And then we just need a bunch of methods to get various errors and error responses. So I'm just going to say get 400 error. And I'm going to say list.http.get and list.baseURL plus. And then buggy is the name of the controller. And for a 400 error, this is going to use the bad request endpoint. And then we need to subscribe to this. And so that we can see what's happening initially in the next, then we know we're just going to get an error from this. But anyway, I'm just going to say response and console.log response. And in the error, we'll also say error and console.log error. Our first task is to see what we actually get back that we can use inside our client. I'm just going to copy this one down a few more times and just update these individual methods to hit the different endpoints. So the next one is going to be a 401 error, and that's going to go to buggy auth. The one after that will be a 404 error, and that's going to go to buggy not found. The one after that will be the get 500 error, and that's going to go to buggy/server-error. And the final one will be a get 400 validation error. And this is actually going to be an HTTP post, and we're going to send this one to our accounts and register endpoints. And we're just going to send up an empty model to guarantee that we get the validation error response from our server. And I'm just going to open up the template for this component. So we'll open up the test errors component and go to its definition. And inside here, I'm just going to add a div, and then I'm going to add buttons. So we'll give the button a class name of btn and btn-outline-primary and me-3, and we'll give it a click event, and I'm just going to say get 400 error and execute that and give it a label of test 400 error. And then I'm just going to copy this button down 4 more times and update the various endpoints. So that's going to be a 401 error. This is going to be a 404 error. This one's going to be a 500 error. And this is going to be get 400 validation error. And then just update the labels as well. So that's going to be test 401, test 404, test 500. And then this last one, let's bring that down, is going to be test 400 validation error. A bit more setup to do because we want to be able to route to our new component here. So I'm going to open up the routes component, the approutes.ts, And I'm just going to add a new path, not authenticated. We want this to be available anonymously. And the path is going to be errors. And the component is going to be our new test errors component. And we'll also just add a navigation link to this as well so that we can get to it easily in our navbar. So I'll open up the nav component and I'll just copy one of these list items and paste it below the conditional to see if this is the current user, as I want anonymous users to be able to access this as well. So the router link we'll specify as errors, and we'll give it a label of errors as well. And if we head over to our browser, we should see that we now have in our errors, we've got our various buttons that test various errors. And I'm just going to log out of Dave and go back to the errors, and I'm going to inspect, and I just want to open up the console, and I just want to test the outputs of these to make sure we're getting the responses that we'd expect. So if I test a 400 error, then we get the 400 bad request, and inside here we'll see the error, this was not a good request. Don't worry about seeing status text of OK, even when we're seeing an error response, by the way. This field is not used really anymore, so just ignore it, and we actually get the error in an error property. That's what we're looking for here, and we don't particularly care about the status text because that's not really used anymore. And we'll test the 401 error and make sure we get 401 unauthorized. The 404, we get the 404 not found. The test 500 error, we get the internal server error, and the validation error should give us an array of errors. And sure, we get the password and username along with the validation errors there. So the goal of this lesson was just to set things up and make sure that we're getting the correct error responses for the different buttons that we have available here. And next we're going to take a look at creating an Angular interceptor, so we can do something if any of these errors occur and take an appropriate response depending on the status code of the error.